Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and today's video is going to be a fun one. In today's video, I'm going hunting for Landorus Therian save switches in the Open Master League with my newly built level 50 Goodra. Goodra, in my view, is definitely a Pokemon more suited for a Masters Premier type format in the Open Master League. It lacks a lot of the stats that the legendaries have. However, one thing it can do quite well due to the new move Aqua Tail is beat Landorus in all even shield scenarios. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's go Goodra. Hopping into the first match, we see the best possible lead, Xerneas into Palkia Origin, opponent save switches into Landorus, and hello Goodra. Goodra as the counter switch is a bit bulkier than the Palkia Origin, however, due to the massive difference in stat product, Goodra has a fraction of the attack that Palkia Origin does. So in terms of damage output, you're not going to get a lot of damage from Goodra, but it is able to withstand 2 Sandsear Storms decently comfortably. They go for another Sandsear Storm. My attack is now at -2. I farm up with the Goodra and fire off the Aqua Tail just before they make their 3rd Sandsear. This is a -2 Aqua Tail. That just does nothing to the Landorus. Oh my goodness. The Landorus is 1 off the back-to-back Sandsears. I shield because I'm hoping that I can Dragon Breath down, and I just can. Can I make the Draco? No, I cannot. Palkia is going to be able to farm me down. I send in the Xerneas. I'm watching for a potential catch. They go for the catch onto Solgaleo. I am going to fire off energy here, but I will go for the close combat instead. Close combat connects, dealing some very valuable damage, and now I can send in the Palkia. And at this range, I can probably just go for an Aqua Tail and a farm down with the Palkia and exit pretty close to a Spatial Rend. Aqua Tail is going to connect. They farmed up 8 Fire Spins. Is this going to be the Solar Beam? It is. That does massive damage. Palkia barely able to hang on. Opponent sends in their own Palkia, and this game should just be won. I fire off the Spatial Rend. Opponent lets it go through, seeing as there's no more win con, and that's a good game. Picking up a positive lead in the next match, Xerneas versus Dialga. This matchup is worse for Xerneas compared to going up against something like the Origin Palkia, because Dialga can hit back hard with super effective Iron Heads. A lot of the time I will just go for the Moonblast, but I decide to actually go for a close combat here and go for a shield. I really want to try and emphasize preserving health on the Xerneas because a lot of people have been running teams that are just ABA like Palkia and Dialga, and if that's the case, I want to keep the Xerneas healthy. I aggressively switch into the Palkia. Opponent sends in their own Palkia, but they're on Dragon Tail. Dragon Tail, not a moveset that I believe in when it comes to Palkia. They go for the Aqua Tail because they know that they're not going to be able to make it to a Spatial Rend. I'm going to go for a Spatial Rend here, and that is going to be, actually shielded by the opponent. That's quite a surprise. I was not expecting them to shield. I send in the Goodra. Goodra gets the farm down, denying the Spatial Rend. I farm down Dialga as well, and in the back, it's Giratina. And there is nothing saving this opponent, not even an Ominous Wind boost from this Draco Meteor. Ominous Wind does not get the boost, and it's time. Goodbye, Giratina getting KO'd with the Draco Meteor, and that's a good game. Moving to the next match, we've got a mirror, Xerneas versus Xerneas. I am running the best buddy boost, so I win charge attack priority over other Xerneas, but my opponent is actually running it as well, so I lose the CMP tie. That's a bit unfortunate. The Moonblast, I'm going to no shield because I do know that I can survive 1, and I'm going to return fire with my own Moonblast. Opponent commits the shield, so like me, they're probably pretty weak to Xerneas in the back. I'm able to make Moonblast number 2. I'm not expecting them to double shield in this matchup, and at this point, I've gotten them low enough that I'm pretty happy to just let my Xerneas go and try and get some energy on my Palkia. Moonblast is going to pick up the knockout. I send in the Palkia. I'm going to try and go for a 1 shield farm down. These are double resisted Dragon Breath, so it's not doing a lot of damage, but if I can get this farm down, and it's going to be really close, I do get the farm down. I just have an overwhelming amount of energy. They're thinking about it. This is so much energy on Palkia. They send in the Lando trying to go for a peekaboo play onto their Palkia. But now I can fire off the Spatial Rend, grab the shield. But guess what? There's more where that came from. Another Spatial Rend reach. Just a truly overwhelming energy lead. Goodbye, Palkia. And guess what, Landorus? You're going to have to deal with Goodra now. Goodra not going to be worried whatsoever about the Sandsear Storms, and I'm just going to commit to a Draco Meteor. We already know that Aqua Tail, of course, doesn't get same type attack bonus, and it's now going to be 2 stages debuffed, so I may as well go for the Draco Meteor. 2 stages debuffed, but it is going to be enough. Goodbye, Landorus, and that's game over. We see a different fairy on the lead in the next match as I lead Xerneas into Primarina. Primarina is the worst nightmare for my Palkia, so I have to do whatever it takes to try and either get rid of this Primarina or get it low. Moonblast shielded by the opponent. That's not what I was hoping to see. The good news is we both have 3 turn fast moves, so every time they throw a move, I get an entire Geomancy for free, which is quite a lot of energy. I'm going to be firing off a Moonblast. This does not knock out, but it will get them low. Opponent lets it through. They're trying for the farm down, but Xerneas says no, making the close combat. They've already shielded once. Are they willing to shield twice? No, they let the Primarina go. In comes the Landorus, and I'm going to aggressively pivot into my Palkia Origin. I don't want to give a Landorus an energy head start. A Landorus up energy is just way too good. They're going to send in their Palkia after they debuff me. I wait until the last possible second to fire off the Spatial Rend. Spatial Rend is going to be shielded. And now the question is my Xerneas healthy enough to make it to a move? I send in the Xerneas. This is going to be close. Opponent doesn't want to risk it. I think they may have been able to farm down there, and if they did, they just win the game on the spot. But they second guess it, and now I can send in the Goodra. Goodra is going to respect the potential Spatial Rend. They bait with the Aqua Tail. They don't get there. Thank goodness. In comes the Landorus, and it's another Draco Meteor. Let's go. Draco Meteor, goodbye Landorus, and we're able to take the win. Moving into the next match, leading Xerneas. Okay, we are seeing non-stop fairy leads these past couple games. Xerneas versus Xerneas. Opponent does not have Best Buddy Boost equipped, which is really nice. This means I can always guarantee to either force shield advantage or switch advantage. The Moonblast will be no-shielded by my opponent, and I'm more than happy to no-shield as well. Moonblast will connect. Oh, my opponent does get the attack drop on the Moonblast, and they're going to go for the close combat. Close combat does not knock out here. I should be able to survive this, and I'm looking to switch into the Palkia as my opponent sends in Giratina. Things are honestly looking pretty good here. Giratina is going to be firing off a charge attack. I'm going to let this through. They bait with the Ominous Wind. Oh, that is very, very nice for me. This is not a range where an Aqua Tail can knock out, so I may as well just go for the Spatial Rend to guarantee the KO. Down goes the Giratina. Opponent sends in their own Palkia. Can I make the Spatial Rend? I cannot. Oh man, I'm close. Let's check their counting. Their counting is perfect. And this is problematic. I send in the Goodra. This is a really tough decision to make. Do I try and call a bait? I commit the shield. It's the Aqua Tail bait. In comes the Xerneas. Xerneas farming up energy, and I will go for the Aqua Tail. Opponent has to start shielding. They shield up the Xerneas. They fire off energy, and I'm going to need to shield here. It is just going to be the close combat. Can I get a farm down because they're debuffed? I cannot! They make a close combat. I was thinking Moonblast counts, but they only need the close combat. I get the farm down, but now I get sniped by the Palkia. They have the Aqua Tail loaded. Just, oh my goodness. I felt like I had win cons in that game, but the opponent played well, and I do lose it. Moving into the next match, okay, great lead to get us back in the win column, leading into Palkia, but the opponent does not save switch into Landorus, they save switch into Mewtwo. I can counter switch into the Palkia, but this is a bit uncomfortable. If the opponent is wanting to commit a shield, then the Aqua Tail is the better play. But in the zeros, Mewtwo can survive an Aqua Tail, so it's really awkward if you're the Palkia, because you can Spatial Rend and win the zeros, but a shielded Spatial Rend actually, I believe, can allow Mewtwo to potentially flip the ones. I am going to fire off the Aqua Tail. My Aqua Tail bait did get shielded, and they actually double shield. They are selling out for switch advantage. I really do not want to give up switch advantage, as I had a very positive lead. I am going to be able to get a full farm down, and I just go for the Aqua Tail. It makes sense for them to bring back in their own Palkia, as they're going to be double resisting this damage. So the Aqua Tail, not very threatening. In the back is Ho-Oh, and I can send in Goodra. Goodra, I'm trying to go for the Draco Meteor. I do lose CMP. Let's see. Goodra should be able to tank a Brave Bird. They go for the Sacred Fire. It's a CMP tie, so I can't see whether that debuffed me or not. The Draco Meteor connects. That does some solid damage. Opponent with a fraction of HP able to make the last second Brave Bird, but that is perfect farm range for the Xerneas. In comes the Xerneas. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. We see a lost lead in the next match, Xerneas into Kyogre. I decide to stay in here, go for the close combat before I end up switching out, as this will get some valuable chip damage onto the Kyogre, and then I can save switch into the Palkia. Opponent responds with a Zacian. Oh, that is really not amazing. This is a matchup, however, where you do feel the buff to Aqua Tail, the extra damage, as the Aqua Tail plus the double resisted Dragon Breaths already has it into the yellow health. I decide, you know what? If I can double shield for switch, that's my plan. I'm just going to commit to switch and hope against hope that they do not have Blizzard. If they have Blizzard, my Goodra is about to get completely obliterated. So I double shield 2 Play Roughs. I'm going to get a full farm down and exit with energy. Opponent, oh no, they have a 2 shield Dialga. And this is looking really, really rough. I am going to be able to grab a shield with the Aqua Tail. I'm able to make it to the last second. Spatial Ren barely able to hang on. Spatial Ren gets no shielded. Opponent maybe didn't think I was quite there. I send in the Xerneas. They can go for the Iron Head, and I'm going to look to immediately cue a switch into the Goodra. It's a simultaneous switch. Goodra into Kyogre. Kyogre farms up and concedes the match. They must not have had Blizzard, and a team that basically triple counters us were able to win. Great lead in the next match, leading Xerneas into another Palkia. The opponent is going to save switch into the Mewtwo, which is quite tricky for this team. The Side Strike, I'm going to let that through. I'm going to farm up, and expecting them to shield, as a lot of Mewtwo's like to do, I will go for the Aqua Tail bait. Opponent does commit the shield, so the Aqua Tail bait ends up being worth it. Perfect counting by my opponent. They'll throw their move just before I get the energy for the Aqua Tail. And now it's my turn to farm up a little bit of extra energy and then go for the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail does get no shielded. Opponent sends in Xerneas. Xerneas will be hit with one final Aqua Tail. This is some very valuable damage, as it puts my opponent a lot closer to Moonblast range. I go in the mirror now. I'm down energy, but I do have a health advantage. I decide to commit the shield, as health on my Xerneas should be very important here. I'm going to continue to farm and go for the Moonblast. Moonblast, I'm expecting a shield from the opponent, and they will commit the shield. Moonblast from my opponent. This is going to do a lot of damage, possibly even take me into the red. Oh, just outside of the red health. I go for the Moonblast as soon as I get it. I'm unfortunately not going to be able to make a Moonblast before my opponent makes it to an Aqua Tail, so I'm going to bank the close combat and switch into the Goodra. The goal is to hopefully force them to Spatial Rend, and then, as long as they don't have an Aqua Tail banked, I think I can win this game with close combat. Spatial Rend, goodbye Goodra. They don't have the Aqua Tail. Close combat is only neutral. Will it be enough? Yes, it is. The endgame got quite a bit scary when they had the Xerneas, but were able to take the win. Man, Xerneas is everywhere, and I really cannot blame people. This Pokemon is just amazing right now. With the fact that Palkia Origin has really scared off all the Ho-Ohs, Xerneas is back to being extremely, extremely free. The opponent is going to lose the CMP tie. I land my Moonblast, and they land theirs. It's actually a simultaneous switch. They send in the Mewtwo, I send in the Palkia Origin. I decided to try and play it out a little differently, since my opponent did end up no shielding, because the Moonblast landing puts them pretty close to Aqua Tail range. Speaking of Aqua Tail range, this Mewtwo is not in Aqua Tail range, and they call it. Someone finally calls my bluff that I'm not going for the Spatial Rend. I decide, you know what? I'm just going to let this go. I'm going to farm with the Goodra. Goodra gets the farm down, exiting with a little bit of energy. This way I can outpace. Oh no, it's Dialga in the back. I was going to say I can outpace the Xerneas, but that is not a Xerneas. That's a Dialga. I build up to the Draco Meteor, bait with the Aqua Tail, get the shield. In comes the Xerneas. Xerneas continuing to farm energy. Opponent tries to go for a CMP tie. I don't throw the close combat right away, so I get a Geomancy for free. That's quite nice. I'm going for the close combat. They do not get the catch. They're not quite in close combat range yet, so this will be tricky. I farm. I could have just close combated then and there, but I was expecting a catch, so I went to over farm. Now there's the switch. A close combat will not knock out, so I am going to fire off the Moonblast. Moonblast will pick up the KO. Can Xerneas make it to the close combat? No, it cannot, and Goodra is going to get knocked out here. Whether it's the Iron Head or the Spatial Rend, it is going to be enough to KO. I felt like there were win cons in that match, but I just couldn't execute. Hopping into the final match one more time. Xerneas into Palkia. The Landorus safe switch met with the Goodra, and we are off to the races. Landorus, Sandsear Storm, Goodra, completely unfazed. Whereas the Origin Palkia, a Sandsear Storm plus a Stone Edge can actually knock out. For the Goodra is able to tank it a little bit better. As I mentioned, it has so much less attack than Palkia Origin. Like, a truly monstrous difference there. And that's part of what helps make up that massive difference in combat power. But you do get a little bit of extra bulk as well. Tough call to make. I decide to commit the shield. Again, the question is, can I farm down? I decide not to risk it. I got worried. I think watching his back, I could have farmed down, but I just did not want to go down a shield because Palkia Origin isn't going to have a particularly fun time against the Xerneas. Xerneas farming up quite a bit of energy. Opponent will go for the Aqua Tail. This does some okay damage, but I'm very okay with that. I'm going to farm up to the back-to-back close combats and full send the Moonblast. We know this will be able to knock out unless they shield. Opponent is going to commit the shield. I farm. I was expecting a catch. They do get the catch even after I overfarm. They get a catch onto Dialga. Moonblast connects. I should be in a pretty good spot here. I'm going to look to overfarm and go for the close combat right before my opponent is able to make the Iron Head. Close combat, KOs the Dialga, and I can just switch into my own Palkia, force them to go for a Spatial Rend, and at this point, there is just no way to lose the game for me, as they don't have enough energy. They were forced to go for the Spatial Rend. I can make it to the close combat, and that's going to take the win. Honestly, even though I am running an extremely good core with Xerneas and Palkia Origin, I was expecting maybe to get like 3 or 4 wins tops across 3 sets. So to go 10-5, especially at leaderboard elo, was extremely unexpected. I think 25-81. I'm currently recording this Friday evening. I believe on Saturday morning's leaderboards, it should be within the top 150 in the world. So pretty happy with that. And it was paired with a very meta core, let's be fair, but having a third Pokemon like Goodra, which is pretty spicy, put in some work, was very fun. It goes without saying, I do not recommend using Goodra in the Open Master League, but, very important caveat, I think this thing is gonna cook in Master Premier, which comes up later this season, which is a Master League format involving level 50s that does not have any legendaries, mythicals allowed, so that format should be quite a bit of fun. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.